As I handed this little guy, Spendy, who we just really love this little guy, he needed school supplies. So I handed him
Hmm.
like, oh, Spendy, here is this Batman backpack and had all this stuff. And the mother just kind of glared at me. And I thought, hey, and I'm like, Gretchen, first of all, I should have just given it to her so she could have given it to him. She wanted to go buy that stuff for him. She wanted to be the one to provide that, not some strange woman from the US. And so that was like a little God lesson, like, this charity is the Band-Aid, but it's not really changing anything. It's not healing. And then I'm back 4 months later, and oh my goodness, like what a transition. This is working. And
Wow.
like that was one of the biggest wins. Just decide that one of your gifts is going to be full of purpose. If we all just made a slight change, a slight shift, then the world would begin to change.
Welcome back to Keep Shining. Each month, we explore leadership, purpose, and influence. And this month's theme is love and service, shining light through global impact. My guest today, Gretchen Huijskens, is the co-founder and CEO of Trades of Hope. It is a multi-million dollar ethical fashion brand that empowers women, helping them to move out of poverty by partnering with artisan partners in over 15 countries worldwide. As well, Gretchen is the author of the book, Our Voices Rising. Her journey began with 8 years of charity work in Haiti, which ignited her passion to create a business that offers stability and hope to women in need. Please join me today in welcoming Gretchen.
Keep shining, be a light. You were made to be a lighthouse, shine bright. Keep shining, be a light.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, Stuart. How are you?
I'm excellent. It's been a long time since we've seen each other, actually.
I know, really briefly in Texas, but everybody was kind of flying about.
So I'm just going to welcome you and really glad that you were able to take some time today to talk to us about your life and your passions and what you've been up to. I did talk already about Trades of Hope, and it was founded on a really cool idea that creating jobs, not charity, changes lives. And so I want to hear from you. What first opened your eyes to the connection between poverty and opportunity?
Well, I began working in Haiti as we were looking at international adoption in the
Hmm.
year 2000.
Okay.
And I I tried to help several different orphanages. And we started the adoption process a couple different times and found that each time was really corrupt in a different way. And it
Oh,
was just
wow.
so disheartening. And
Hmm.
at that point, my husband and I had given a lot of time and a lot of money within a few months and realized this is not effective. This is not helping anyone that needs the help. And so I came back from my third trip to Haiti and realized that we had to do something differently. And so I came into the kitchen fresh off the plane and
Now,
shared with my husband.
how long ago was this?
This was over 20 years ago now.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you came into the
Yeah.
kitchen?
Yeah, like 23 years ago. Wow, time is
Wow.
flying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went into the kitchen and told him, hey, I think we need to open up a safe home for babies in Haiti. And
Boom.
shockingly, he's like, okay. So I
Wow.
don't know what he was truly thinking in that moment, but he was very loving and supportive from day one. And that's what we ended up doing. And even though I knew nothing about running a charity in Haiti, I knew that I could do it better than anything that I had seen to that point. And so that's what we did for 8 years. We had what ended up being a decent sized orphanage for young children. And we
Hmm.
opened up a school for the community and a medical clinic. My sister's a nurse practitioner. And so she brought in all
Wow.
kinds of medical professionals. And because we really wanted to try and impact the community as a
Hmm.
whole.
So your whole family moved there?
No, we didn't. We lived in LA at the time. And about
Okay.
every 5 weeks, I would go down for 5 days for a good chunk of it. A
Hmm.
chunk of those years. But we did that for about 8 years. In the meanwhile, we adopted my third child, Mia, from Haiti, and so that just really kind of kept the passion alive for me too.
Hmm.
Having this little girl in our home and loving her so much, and so um, we did that, and then the earthquake happened, and the slate was wiped clean,
Hmm.
and we could reimagine what it could look like to try and really move into development versus charity.
So with the earthquake, you lost the facility, or what happened?
Facility, yeah, had cracks in it so big you could pass notes through it,
Oh my goodness.
but no one was hurt. And so a few of the nannies did get hurt when they were at their own homes, like one lost a
Hmm.
son. But so, there were some sad, sad stories and all of that. But none of the people who were physically in our orphanage or working there at that time were injured. They ended up sleeping outside at a local school
Hmm.
because the building was not safe. But
Hmm.
we were able to bring all the children who were already in the process of being adopted in the United States and Canada, because the adoptions were taking so long at that point. They were all in
Hmm.
the process. And we were able to bring them back to the United States and allow them to finish their adoption here. So 28 children, we flew
Wow.
home, well, what would soon be their home, my home,
Yeah, yeah.
in one evening. And it
Wow.
happened, gosh, I think it was 8 days after the earthquake
So
happened.
how old would these kids have been?
They were infants, like under 6 months, all the way up until about 11, I believe, at that point.
Wow. Wow. So I love what you said, because you said with a clean slate, you were able to sort of imagine kind of new possibilities. And I know you're a woman of faith, and I always say, I go back to the book of Romans, where it says, all things, God can take all things and work them together for good. And oftentimes we look at circumstances in our life, something as devastating as an earthquake, and go, when you look back, you go, oh, that was that, God used that as an opportunity to move into something new.
Yeah. In fact, I mean, horrific, horrific things happened. So much
Hmm.
sadness, so much loss. But there were some crazy silver linings that I never would have imagined. In
Yeah.
fact, the night before we all flew, I was traveling with three men to go to Haiti. One was a nurse, one was one of our adoptive parents who was a pastor in our area here, and we were friends with, and then another was a doctor who used to live in Haiti, and he helped at that point. And we had to catch a super early plane out of this tiny little airport in Florida. And we ended up at a Cracker Barrel for dinner the night before,
Hmm.
so
Yep.
great,
Yep.
great cuisine.
Yeah.
But Jack goes to pray before our meal, and he prays, Lord, let us please be able to bring all the children home. And Stuart, in my
Right.
head, I'm like, oh my gosh, like,
Yeah.
come on,
Really?
Jack. Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
what we ended up doing, like
Wow.
36 hours
I got
later.
chills.
And I mean, there were a lot of prayers and a lot of the adoptive parents working hard behind the scenes. As I was in Haiti,
Hmm.
I didn't even know it was happening at first.
Hmm.
They're making the calls to Congress people and senators and all the like. But yeah, but that's what happened. And
Wow.
before the earthquake, I had fallen in love with the idea of microfinancing.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
there was
So
just
talk to us a
no
little bit about that,
capacity.
because I don't know that everybody understands what microfinancing is. And talk a little bit about that, because that's transitional, right? From, okay, we're just going to go down there and provide support and help, to saying, hey, we're going to leave an imprint on these people's life and allow them to do their own thing and grow, without your help necessarily, right? Like they could
Yeah.
get past it. So talk to us a little bit about that, because that's pretty exciting.
Well, over the 8 years, I just realized there are so many shortcomings to charity.
Hmm.
Charity is necessary, it is needed. We should all
Hmm.
be charitable and giving. But charity's place typically is in time of like desperate circumstances, natural
Hmm.
disasters, people going through really hard transitional times and they just need help.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so nothing, I'm not against charity and by any means, but it has a place.
No.
And it only achieves so much. And working, when I started in Haiti, I expected to see a transformation and it just wasn't happening. We were constantly a band-aid. And I wanted to create change. And
Right.
it
Wow.
was so sad seeing parents in Haiti needing to give up their children, needing to basically come to us for supplies. Can we please have school supplies for our kids so that they can go to school? You know, they wanted to provide that themselves. And mothers did not want to give up their children. I think probably, I'm so guessing in this number, but 80%, let's say, of the children who were abandoned in orphanages to us, they shouldn't have been. That wasn't the solution. But if we would have just sent them away at that point, they would have just gone to the other orphanage down the
Right.
road, which wasn't as good by
Hmm.
far. And so I read a book by Muhammad Yunus,
Hmm.
probably 20 years ago, and he talked about this idea of microfinancing and what he had done in Bangladesh as an
Hmm.
economist there and a scholar. And it was phenomenal. I fell in love with this idea that you give a small business loan to a woman, she creates a
Hmm.
business, and she makes choices for herself. She provides for her children. She decides which.
Much more sustainable, right? Yeah.
Definitely, definitely.
Hmm.
Now, since then, I've learned there are a lot of shortcomings there, and that requires a lot of education to have somebody on the ground educating the people, really
Hmm.
walking with them. So it's not a quick fix.
Hmm.
Um, but that's where I came to this idea that, my goodness, if you can just help a woman have a job, and sometimes women aren't in the mind space, right? They're in survival mode to start a business. They just need
Hmm.
a job where they can get paid money and take care of their families. And so that's what we wanted to accomplish with Traits of Hope was, when the earthquake happened, I did not want to open another orphanage ever
Right.
because I never would have even dreamt to think about like, what if someday we don't have an orphanage? Because
Right.
once you have it, you can't just walk away.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so, yeah, that earthquake allowed this space.
Yeah. If not for the earthquake, sadly,
Yeah.
this whole other thing wouldn't have been birthed. So it almost sounds to me, and almost formidable, like in terms of how did you do this? Walk us through. I mean, it's this idea in your head. How did you take it from that to okay, we're going to actually start Trades of Hope here in Haiti?
Well, we started it here in the United States, and
Okay.
then we purchase from different groups in Haiti that I know and love and believe in. And so that's kind of where we started. When after the earthquake happened, my board I told them, hey, we're going to trade Three Angels, Children's Relief is the nonprofit.
Okay.
I wanted to go into development. I wanted to do small business loans. They said, no, well, that's great, Gretchen, but we really want to open a small baby house again. I'm like, listen, I know what happens when you open a small baby house. It becomes a full orphanage. And I just didn't feel called to that anymore. And so I thought I would take some time off and I joke about cleaning closets. I was going to make better meals for my family and all of that stuff. And I was walking on the beach one day talking to a friend of mine here in the town I live in. And she's like, well, what do you want to do next? I start telling her about microfinancing and, hey, I want to help moms have jobs. And she starts telling me about this dream she has about starting a direct sales company someday. Like, wouldn't it be so cool? Like, what a cool business model. And, like what it's done for women over the years. And together we kind of were like, huh, maybe this
Now,
works
had you
together.
were you open to direct selling at the time? Had you been involved in anything? Did you know much about it?
I did not know much about it. I had been a consumer. I had had friends who had sold different things over the years. I lived in
Hmm.
California. And so I was a supporter, but I had never sold anything myself.
Okay. Okay. So the two of you are talking, and it's like two ideas coming together.
Mhm.
What happened next?
Yeah, we're kind of like doers. We just jump in. And so I think about 6 months, 6 weeks later, we were
6 weeks.
applying for
Wow.
our LLC. And about 3 months after that, we had our first home party at my house.
Okay.
And we just started off. I mean, I think we both invested $1,200 and we just grew it very organically from there. And
Hmm.
the feedback we were getting from people was astounding because at that point,
Hmm.
too, like 15 years ago now, so it was 15 years ago we started Trades Pope. It was such a novel idea that, wait,
Yeah.
I can buy something and that helps somebody else. Like, well, that's kind of cool. So, fair trade just wasn't known. There
Hmm.
Tom's Shoes was just getting started,
Okay.
things like
Hmm.
that. And so it started really organically. We brought our daughters in, and the four of us just grew it over the years and learned as we went. So we just decided everything was figure outable, and you can, at that point, even goodness, now with ChatGPT, it's different, but you could Google anything basically, and
Hmm. Yep.
to at least find somebody who knew and find the resources. So,
So talk to us a little bit about how it worked. So you were giving loans to people in third, not just Haiti, as I understand it, right?
well,
Like
we
in
never did
other.
the loans.
Okay.
We never did the loans because, yeah, the more I read, the more I was like, oh, I think you really, first of all, need to be in finance. You need to
Right.
know more about finance than I did at that
Hmm.
moment, at least. And then you needed to be there to do the education. And this other idea came up, and it just seemed so um, feasible that we could kick that
Yeah.
up and grow
So
that.
you were selling products at home parties that were made. So explain how that works. So you would get goods from Haiti, for example, and bring them home and sell them there.
Yes, like I was introduced to a woman in Haiti. Her name's
Hmm.
Shelley. She still has a huge ministry there that we love and support
Awesome.
and work with every day. And like me, went down to adopt and realized, but
Hmm.
wait, like these children have a mother. Like, why aren't they with their
Hmm.
mother? And so she ended up moving down there with her whole family. And she started very organically too, as well, like sitting on the floor with women, she will say, making very ugly jewelry, bringing it back and selling it to friends, family, churches, and they
Okay.
just started that way and they just jumped in. But it showed that it could work, even with the
Right.
ugly jewelry. But over time, they
Okay.
elevated all of that and
Hmm.
create beautiful pieces now. And so we purchase from existing fair trade groups. Like India has been
Okay.
doing fair trade since the 30s and 40s. The Mennonites
Wow.
were really big on helping get all of that started. So a huge group of women in Pennsylvania helped some of those groups get started. And so, really, really cool work over the generations that have really has rippled into something else. And so, we purchase from fair trade groups, and we purchase from groups like Shelley's, like Papillon. And then
Hmm.
we've helped some other groups get started. And so, yeah, it's over the years, we've probably purchased from 30 different groups
Oh, wow.
at a time and in 18 different countries at a time. And yeah, it's really been amazing. So,
So talk to me a little bit about the impact that you saw that happening for families in these communities. Like what I know you said, I mean, you were doing great work for 8 years, in helping children, but talk to us a little bit about the difference in what you saw happening with these
mm,
families in these communities.
yeah. We worked with a lot of the birth parents and the parents at the school for a lot of years with Three Angels. And at that
Hmm.
point, I just wasn't seeing people being happier, people getting into better
Interesting.
situations. I saw sometimes you'd be helping someone and you'd actually get like an angry response. And I remember being really offended one day for a second as I handed this little guy, Spendy, who we just really love this little guy. He needed school
Hmm.
supplies. So I handed him
Hmm.
like, oh, Spendy, here is this Batman backpack and had all this stuff. And the mother just kind of glared at me. And I thought, hey,
Wow.
what's her problem?
Yeah,
Then
yeah.
I took a breath and I'm like, Gretchen, first of all, I should have just given it to her so she could have given it to him. But
Oh, there's a lesson. That's
yeah,
cool. Yeah.
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 So that was a missed opportunity there. But you know what? She wanted to go buy that stuff for him. She wanted to be the one to provide that, not some strange woman from the
Mm.
US. And so that was like a little God lesson, like, This
I
is
like
my
that one
deal.
actually.
This charity is the Band-Aid, but it's not really changing anything. It's not healing. And to contrast that, just a few years later, maybe 3 years later, I'm in Haiti. We are at Papillon, that ministry in Haiti that we work with.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've got probably 10 consultants with me, and we're giving them a tour. And Shelly is giving us the tour, and she's telling them about what all the women are doing. And this is the bead rolling, and this is the clay making, and
Mm-hmm.
so on and so forth. And she says, kind of off to the side, as we're kind of stepping out, she's like, see the woman in the corner? And oh, yeah. I mean, I really thought she was quite old. But she said, no, she's just really not doing well. This is her first day. She was found just a couple days before that trying to give her baby, trying to find an orphanage to give her baby away to. Chris Nelly is the baby who was 1 year old. And Gina is the woman rolling the beads. And like, wow, this is her first day, And Shelly's like, well, I hope she sticks with it. And you'll see Chris Nelly's in the daycare downstairs. So we go see this baby. The baby is chubby. The baby is healthy. The mom was not. The mom was hurting and very, very thin. And you could see this woman was at the end of her ropes. And so,
Mm-hmm.
so we get to see the beginning of this story unfold. And then I'm back 4 months later, and oh my goodness, like what a transition. This is working. And Gina's happy to see that we came back. She actually remembered us, and she was, welcoming. And then about, I'm guessing 18 months later, I'm there by myself. I see Shelly and we're talking, and I'm like, hey, where's Gina? She's like, she's right there. And I said, no, remember Gina who had the baby Chris Nelly? And she's like, Gretchen, that's her. Gina hears this and she understands just enough English that she starts laughing. She thinks this is so funny. I'm like, no, that's not her. You looked so different, Stuart.
Oh, that's awesome.
She looked 10 years younger. She had filled out, her hair looked great. I mean, healthier, and this young woman was vibrant and so happy that her daughter was in the daycare and would soon be starting preschool. And like that was one of the biggest wins, and the most complete story that we get to see by just visiting,
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So
in doing this, you've worked with women who've escaped abuse, I understand, trafficking and all that kind of stuff. This is a great story. I love this story. Do you have any other stories of people who were like transformed, not just economically, but like even emotionally or spiritually? Like what kind of impact are you able to have? I mean, I see it in your face, and I've known you for a number of years, and I'm starting, we've never had this in-depth conversation, and it's easier for me now to understand who Gretchen is, just because like this has just got to be so fulfilling. So tell me about like what you've seen in the growth of people emotionally and spiritually as well.
Well, sometimes I think it's a shock to me. I grew up in a pretty, what seemed to me at the time, mediocre Midwest family. Now I see it was an extreme privilege, right? That I grew up in this very boring, well taken care of, no trauma family. How unusual that is. And then I get to talk to, we have a group called Starfish Project in Southeast Asia. They actually don't disclose the country very often because they're trying to protect their program there. But they work with women who are coming out of brothels in that area. This country is as sure as everyone, there are no brothels there, but there are. And so the woman who started that program started going in and just meeting the women in the brothels. And the people that ran the brothels actually didn't mind. Like they didn't see it as a threat, or, I mean, I'm sure some were worse than others, but she built community and trust. And so over time, these women have decided to move into Starfish Project, and they have a housing program if they need it. They can help take care of their children as they get the counseling that they need. They
Hmm.
can be part of the jewelry making program if they so choose. They can then learn how to, work Microsoft Excel, and they
Yeah.
learn how to do quality control and all of this stuff. Or photography, they get to decide what they're interested in. But one of the
Hmm.
best stories that they told me one day was I was on a Zoom with the woman who runs Starfish, and she said, yeah, sometimes I just need to remember like all the little things really matter. She said, I was in my office yesterday and I was dealing with an Excel spreadsheet and couldn't, there was an issue. It wasn't working out. The numbers weren't working out. And they called me and they said, hey, Jenny, come down because it is so and so's birthday. And they celebrate every birthday, Jenny says. And she said, there are a lot of them. So it's like, oh, great.
Another birthday.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
she walked down and she felt like she wanted to say she was too busy, was what she boiled down to. She walked down there and they do a ritual where they have a cake, but each woman goes around and they say what they appreciate in the birthday girl, if you will. And this woman is just sobbing, the birthday woman who was having the birthday, sobbing. And so Jenny went and talked to her. She's like, what's the matter? What's going on? And she says, no one has ever celebrated my birthday or said anything nice like this to me. And yeah, Jenny said she just about lost it, right? It was such a reminder. Like, it's so much more. Yes, the jewelry, the job, everything. But their program is so holistic and beautiful. They are invited to worship. They are invited to counseling programs. They're invited to different child rearing classes, whatever they need. And they're really concerned about the human
Hmm.
involved in all of
Hmm.
this. And I think
That's
that's just beautiful.
that's awesome. It is beautiful. It's interesting. Even here in North America, we often talk in leadership about recognition, and people need to be lifted up. They need to be encouraged. And so, hearing stories like this, these are people who have no sense of self-worth at all, right? And something as simple, it's really moved me. Something as simple as wishing them a happy birthday and telling them that that God's made them for a purpose, that they're meant to be here. That it's just amazing. Wow,
But a
wow,
group of women, a room full of women care enough to take 10 minutes,
yeah,
say nice things about her, and share cake.
yeah,
It's awesome.
wow. That's pretty cool. That's a lot of lessons there. So the whole concept of ethical shopping, fair trade, I gotta admit, I see signs, I hear about it. It's if we're not careful, it's just some abstract idea that we don't know a lot
Always.
about. Um, how can like everyday people like me and the people that are listening, how can they shine light through the choices that they make when they go to shop? Like, what advice, people who go, I really want to do better, I
Mhm.
just really don't know how, and I don't know what kind of impact I'm actually having. What advice would you have for them?
Yeah, well, the easiest thing is there are organizations out there that help put a seal of approval, and they're going through the checklists every year to make sure that people are in safe working conditions and they are getting paid fair living wages and there's no child labor and things like this. So, Fair Trade Federation is what we go to, is our go-to.
Okay.
A B
Okay.
Corp, like companies like Athleta are doing better than other companies. So, I went to buy a present for someone. I'm not going to go to Lululemon. Now, I don't know if Lululemon's good or not. I'm going to
Yeah.
preface
You're
that.
not saying they're bad, but
No,
you just
I
don't
don't
know.
know. But
Yeah.
I do know
Yeah.
that Athleta has that B Corp stamp on it. And yeah, it's just becoming informed about your brands
Mhm.
and being willing sometimes to pay a little bit more, knowing that you value the woman or the man who made that product. And because how you spend your money can help or it can actually hurt. And we don't know that all the time. I don't buy everything fair trade. When I go to buy light bulbs or,
Mhm.
I don't know if that's fair trade or not, but if
Yeah.
we all started becoming more aware and choosing fair trade when we can.
When we can, yeah. When you see two opportunities and you go, I can choose this or this, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
And that's what we're trying now to do with Trades of Hope. We've actually brought 16 different brands together, including our own, and are creating this marketplace where,
Wow.
because I kind of always wanted to carry more clothing in different categories. And that is bringing those brands in, and especially right now in a time where it is really hard for a small business to stay alive. Um, we're kind of joining forces and creating that marketplace. So I hope that, that continues to happen and more people are aware of these brands, of these certifications.
hmm let's talk about you a little bit. This kind of work, unlike some of the other regular jobs, is probably emotionally heavy. You're telling, you just shared two or three stories, um, but I'm sure there are times where you feel like I'm not doing enough, or there are steps backwards, or you see people that don't flourish like you would want them to. It's emotionally heavy, I imagine, and so for the listeners here, what kinds of practices do you use to help you keep hopeful, stay renewed, stay focused?
Mm,
If you do, I'm pretty sure you do
yeah.
because every time I see you, you're pretty happy.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm usually in a social setting, so I have to try hard to look happy there, I guess. But um, no, I think I read a lot. I read a lot of
hmm
light, silly
hmm
books.
hmm
Honestly,
Okay.
I listen to nonfiction and I read fiction, and yeah, so I can get lost in a book by the beach.
Okay.
It's probably the best cure. Um, Strangely enough, going back to the artisans and hearing their stories, usually
hmm
that's helpful because usually
Okay.
they're good. The
Okay.
the hard part comes when our business isn't growing,
Right.
and there's a decline and we're purchasing less. And you have the artisans coming and saying, "Hey, you have another order for us?" And we're like, "No, not right
No.
now."
Yeah.
That's the hardest part. Um,
hmm
and that's where I can feel like, oh, maybe I'm not doing enough. Maybe I should be doing something in a different way, or we should be doing more or less, or I don't know what. Um,
hmm
and I'm a problem solver, Stuart. I love solving a problem. And so
hmm
it's been frustrating since COVID really changed the way that our business works, as I'm sure you know,
hmm
when for prep
Yeah.
plan, non-consumable items. And
hmm
so it's been a challenge, and yet cool things continue to happen every day. So we just focus on those wins and focus on what we can do, what we are
hmm
doing. And yeah, if in
I
doubt.
think that's great. I think it's great advice, and I think there's a lot of times we look at challenges and they seem so great. I'm sure for you, I mean, you go to some of these countries where you go, am I really going to make a difference?
Mm,
And I think we're called to make our difference in any way that we can. I think we're called to use our time, our talents, our money in a certain way, and I think sometimes it can be overwhelming, but I think there's a real opportunity for us to say, well, at least I'm doing everything that I can do. And if everybody did that, the world would be a much, much better place. And so we can't focus, I don't think, on the problem as much as what we can do to assist. And I see that, even here at home, what can I do? Sometimes we sort of roll our eyes and say it's not making a difference, but
mhm.
there's that story everybody's heard about the starfish. I know you know that, like I'm right here close to the beach and I see the starfish on the beach, but when the little boy is throwing starfish in the ocean and someone says, well, there's literally thousands of them here on the beach, and how are you making a difference? And as he tosses one in the ocean, he says, well, I made a difference to that one. And that's really all we can do.
Yeah.
So, Gretchen, when you think about your next chapter, is there anything you feel called, something next in letting your light shine?
Well, I'm kind of at this funny place, Stuart, where I start kind of brainstorming and thinking about
Hmm.
something. Kind of started working on a travel program, a women's
Oh,
retreat
that's interesting.
program, taking women to visit different countries and have different, experiences, sometimes with artisans, sometimes just like self-development. And then I start to feel guilty and I'm like, no, you should go back and focus on Trades of Hope. Like, get your act together,
Hmm.
woman. So, eh. So I am kind of in a transition period myself. Um,
Hmm.
and but I don't know I should be transitioning. We just launched a new program with Trades of Hope where we have a little subscription box that seems to be incredibly successful in the first week. The reaction that we've gotten is way better than we ever could have hoped. And so that kind
That's
of
very cool.
makes me feel
Yeah.
like, I think you need to
But
stay focused.
maybe there's an opportunity to pull the two together, because I think, you know, if someone is intrigued by travel and you take them to meet the artisans, then maybe you kill two birds with one stone in a way, right? Because now you've got
Definitely.
them, you got to travel, but now you get to see our mission as well. And maybe you'll inspire people to get more involved in your mission, you know?
And we've done
The
that
more
with.
people we have selling those products, the greater help it is to these communities, right?
Yes. Well, and I think that's kind of why I organically went that way because over the years, I've taken hundreds of women to Haiti and to the Dominican Republic and Costa Rica. And so we've done all in Guatemala, a lot of women to Guatemala. We love Guatemala.
Okay.
So, yeah, so we'll see. We'll see what 2026 brings. I don't know.
Well, we'll keep praying about that. I would love to ask, who has been a light in your life? Someone who you looked at and their love and service and the way that they interacted with people changed who you were. Was there someone like that in your life?
That is such a good question. I think it is. I can immediately think of a bunch of different women for different reasons.
Okay.
Like our good friend Joni, you and I have a mutual good friend. She has taught me about hospitality and generosity like nobody
Hmm.
else.
Right. Right. Yep.
Our friend Nancy, it has taught me about tenacity and spunk and just
Yep.
going for it all the time. And then I've had women who I just so admire their faith. And my friend Michelle has a relationship with God that is just so incredibly tight, if you will.
Hmm.
So I think the key is surrounding yourself with as many amazing people as you can and really valuing those relationships and investing in them, investing
Okay.
the time in developing those relationships.
So, if you could encourage the listeners to take just one small step today towards shining a light through love and service, what would that step look like?
Well, we are in a season of gift giving.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I would definitely encourage if you can just decide that one of your gifts is going to be full of purpose. And, maybe that's a gift card that is in a fair trade ornament,
Hmm.
something
Hmm.
like that. If we all just made a slight change, a slight shift, then the world would begin to change. And I think there's a
That's
lot of
awesome.
beauty in that.
I think so too. We have a little tradition here at Keep Shining, and that is that the previous guest asks a question, not knowing who this question is going to. And then you're going to have the opportunity to ask a question of our next guest without knowing. But their question, which they didn't know was to you, is this: what advice would you have for someone who's just starting? What would you tell your younger self just as you were starting, for example, Trades of Hope? For young people who are just starting out in a career or a mission or a project, what advice would you have for the younger Gretchen?
Mm, not to be afraid of being bad at something in the beginning. Like,
Great advice.
yeah, like you will get good, but nothing that we do and we do really well, we were great at the day we started it. So put the ego aside and just go for it and don't give up.
What a great answer.
Thank
Thank you. And what's the question you're going to leave for our next guest?
Well, I would say most pertinent to me right now is, how do you know when to add something else to your plate? You know, you've got a mission, you've been given what you believe is a calling from God. How do you know when the next thing is a distraction or the next part of the journey?
That's a great question.
Does that make sense?
That's a great question. It does. And so you're going to have to tune in to the episode after you to get the answer.
Excellent. I love that.
Gretchen, thank you for reminding us today. Service isn't charity, right? It's partnership, and it's love in motion. And it's been really, actually, for me, great to actually dig in. And in the social settings you and I have been in, we actually haven't had the opportunity to dig in like this. It's been great for me to get to actually know you better in front of all the people watching. But thanks for the call to turn compassion into action. And I just really want to thank you for the light that you are shining, not just here in the United States or in North America, but around the world. And I really want to thank you for being true to your mission, for answering the call, and being faithful to it. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Stuart. It's an honor to be here with you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.